the prime minister, the president of Japan. What is she? Is she the, oh, she's the prime minister, Sane Takaichi. I don't speak Japanese, so I'm not going to say her name correctly. She was doing an interview, and when asked if what would happen, what would Japan do if China decided to attack Taiwan, and she said it would. Well, I've got up the. Let me bring it up here so you guys can see. I've got the article up here. This is from Taipei Times. And I want to get to the, this is like what happened after. I want to make sure. Erroneous remarks. I'm trying to find where it said. Oh man, there's so much to this story. Like there's so many things that happened. It only happened a few days ago. But yeah, basically she was doing this interview. And I want to make sure I get her words correct. I don't want to have to like fix. I don't want to have to like misquote her, you know. Okay, so this one doesn't even have her quote, but it basically just says China and Japan have repeatedly faced off around the island, but the latest activity comes amid intensifying diplomatic spat after the Japanese Prime Minister, I'm going to butcher her name, told Parliament that if China attacked democratically ruled Taiwan, it could trigger a military response from Tokyo. And this is like a problem, you know? Because most countries, when they talk about Taiwan, they prefer to have what's called a strategic ambiguity, basically. I say basically, I just say basically to tell you that I'm not exactly sure if that's what it's called. But they don't want to directly say that, yeah, totally we'll defend Taiwan, because that crosses a red line that China has drawn. And China can retaliate with all kinds of things, especially with economics, because so many countries have their economies tied up with China, so that if they upset China in any way, that's an incredibly easy thing to do, then China can block investments or not invest in their countries or whatever. In this case, it's created a whole new thing where China is telling their citizens not to visit Japan. And this is what the Taipei Times article is about. It says Tokyo raises objections against China advising citizens to avoid Japan travel, which is hilarious because I guess what they're trying to do is to stop people from going to Japan so that Japan loses out on all that income from the Chinese tourists, because there are a lot of Chinese tourists that go to Japan, which is weird. And this is part of like the cultural aspect that I wanted to touch on, because I think that you could read an article and get down to the basics of what happened. But what I find most interesting is that when I lived in China, I found that most Chinese people really disliked Taiwanese people. And they also really disliked Japanese people, or just Japan. Some would go so far as to say they hate Japan. And yet more and more people are going there to visit. So it's obviously changing a little bit, but basically they haven't ever forgiven Japan for what they did in World War II. And some of you history buffs might know a thing or two about it. And if you don't, you can look it up. They did some pretty awful stuff to China. And to this day, they've never forgiven them. They're in the same kind of boat as Korea. Korea kind of has similar feelings towards Japan, but I don't think they're as extreme. And I think the other issue with it is not only the historical things that happened, you know, with Nanjing and the invasion and all of that. I think on top of that, you have two cultures that there's aspects of those two cultures that clash, that don't go together. Because China, for one, is an incredibly nationalistic country. People are very proud of being Chinese. And if you insult one Chinese person, it's like the same thing as insulting the entire country, which is an infuriating thing, especially when you're a YouTuber. Because, you criticize one part of China and it's like you've literally offended every single Chinese person. And Japan, as it so happens, has the exact same thing. Japan is also an incredibly nationalistic country. Japanese people are super proud to be Japanese. And they kind of have a superiority complex, if that makes sense, where they consider themselves kind of the top dogs in Asia, and in fact in many parts around the world. And that really collides with China's belief, where they are, the middle kingdom. They are the kind of the center of the universe. They are number one in Asia, or at least that's the goal. That's what they're trying to do. And so I think that Chinese people look at Japan and all of their self-confidence and their highbrow sort of attitude with a lot of contempt. And so any excuse that they can find to kind of blame Japan for something or hate Japan for something, especially if there's something domestic in China that's going on that they'd rather the local people ignore. China's a great, scapegoat, or Japan's a really good scapegoat for that. And I found it really interesting when I went to Japan, and my buddy was telling me that a lot of restaurants that are like, Thai restaurants or Taiwanese restaurants or Vietnamese, whatever, like Asian restaurants, they'll actually label them as Asian restaurants. Like they don't even, they have this thing where they don't even consider themselves Asian, like they're above it. It's a really weird attitude because, of course they're Asian, they're in the continent and their race would be described as Asian, but they see themselves as like elevated beyond that. And yeah, so those two attitudes just really clash. And it's been interesting to watch because all of this is over a simple quote over what Japan would do in the event of an invasion. And China's like losing their minds over this. And I'm interested to know what you guys think in the comments. I thought it would be a bit of a discussion, but I find it pretty amazing. And yeah, this whole thing where they're objecting to Chinese people. Well, they're trying to get China, the government in China is trying to get their people not to go to Japan, which I think is like a weird thing. I think that it seems to me that part of the reason why this woman got elected, Sane Takaichi, again, I don't speak Japanese, I'm going to butcher her name every single time, is that her government has a really strong anti-foreign sentiment to it. She's kind of the party is seen as sort of defending the traditions of Japan and keeping Japan Japanese. And while I'm sure there are a lot of Japanese people who appreciate the extra income and the money that comes in from these Chinese tourists who do spend a lot of money in Japan, I think the vast majority of Japanese people, at least the Japanese people that I talk to or my foreign friends that live in Japan, what they seem to believe is that Japanese people really don't like Chinese tourists at all, which is a common theme around the world. I think one of my last live streams was about that, about Japanese people or Chinese tourists in Japan and all around the world just being like either rude or brash or not knowing how to behave themselves. And now the Chinese government's like, don't go to Japan because they said they would defend Taiwan. And I think a lot of Japanese people are like, well, that's great. Don't come here. We don't want you here. You're like, you come here and you kick at our deer and all this other stuff. I'm not sure if you guys saw that clip. I showed it in my last live stream, but yeah, I don't think Japanese people are going to be all that sorry about missing out on Chinese tourists. Taiwan, for one, hasn't had Chinese tourists for years. They're actively like kicking out Chinese people for things that they say online. There's a lot of Chinese people that live here in Taiwan because maybe they they married a Taiwanese person and so they got like a spousal visa or something. thing. But then they'll go online and they'll actively call for an invasion on Taiwan, and then Taiwan's like, okay, and then they kick them out and take their passport or take their visa or whatever. And so now Japan's going to be in the same boat as Taiwan, where they're not going to get any Chinese tourists. And it's just like, it's interesting to see that clash flare up again between Japanese people and Taiwanese people, and Chinese people and Japanese people. And one other interesting thing I remember from my time there is that they have Victory over Japan Day. It's called VE Day, I think, and it just commemorates the day they defeated Japan in World War II. I guess defeat's kind of a strong word. I'm interested to know what you guys think in the comments. Who do we have in the comments? Seo Tang, Happy Quails. All right, what's up? You know, a lot of the Chinese history claims that they like won the war, you know, like they beat back the Japanese, which is partly true. But I think Japan had no choice but to pull out of China, because they just got nuked twice by the Americans. Like, it wasn't the Japanese that did that. You know, it was the Americans that won the war. Yo, Prazi, you got a back zipper for that bear suit? You're kind of a hairy guy. I am a hairy man. Yeah, my microphone's pulling my shirt down. I apologize. I didn't mean to turn you guys on that much. I know it's I know it gets you going, Adam. I apologize. I'll keep an eye on this. And if you're in public, try to keep it in the pants. And if not, well, then, you know, you're gonna, I think I charge for that kind of thing. It looks like my stream is, oh no, because I paused it. That's why I'm dumb. Yeah, you know, I usually charge for that extra stuff, you know. Julian, what's up? But yeah, so yeah, I think like historically, there's all this like, there's all this, what is going on with this stupid stream? There's all this like talk about, you know, like in Chinese history about how they fought back the Japanese. I don't think they did. I think they slowly lost ground, and then the Americans dropped the bombs and Japan had to pull out. And Japan all the while were committing these horrible war crimes in China. And now, to this day, Chinese people hate Japan. And Taiwanese people don't have that feeling. Taiwanese people don't hate Japan at all. I've said this in videos in the past, but like Taiwanese people eat up everything Japanese. Japanese anime, makeup products, movies, whatever. Like they'll learn the language just for fun. They travel there all the time. I think Japan is still the top tourist destination for Taiwanese people. And they don't have the same feeling of hatred towards Japan as China does. And I think it's because in World War II, Taiwan was a part of Japan. So they were kind of part of the Japanese war machine. I think the only people who might have bad feelings towards Japan are Kuomintang people who fought in the actual Chinese Civil War. But again, I don't know how much of this is lost on you guys. It very much depends on your history. I don't want to jump around the topic too much. But yeah, this article is just, it kind of lays down the story of them telling their people not to go to Japan. And the other crazy thing that a Chinese official said, and I can't remember what he is, he's like the strong objections, including a social media post from its consul general in Osaka last weekend saying, "We have no choice but to cut off that dirty neck that's been lunging at us." And he's referring to the neck of the Japanese prime minister, which is like a crazy thing to say. Like, my dude, you live in Osaka. You are surrounded by an incredibly nationalistic group of people. You know, Japanese people are incredibly nationalistic. You live in Osaka and that's what you said. You're going to cut her head off? That's crazy. Wasn't there an actress that got in trouble for holding up Donald Trump's head? Like, wasn't that something that they, didn't she get in trouble for that? This is the same kind of thing. What happened here? Welcome to support the channel. Did I just get a new channel member from this person? I can't read your name. How, whatever your name is. Thank you. I appreciate the channel membership. Julian says, everything that comes out of Chinese officials always sounds like some spoiled child. I totally agree. Like, I find, I don't know if it's a translation issue, but the tone of the things that they say seems so, as you put it, childish. And I totally agree. His comment was taken down, obviously. It says here, sparked by, sorry, let me make sure that sparked by Japanese diplomat protest that was followed by a back and forth that continued all week. And yeah, so I mean, this comment by the Japanese Prime Minister is a big one. It's kind of a crazy thing to say. I don't think that, I don't think that when she said it, that she expected the reaction she got. I really don't think she expected it. Vanessa Ness, my Australian friend. G'day. G'day, mate. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks for joining the stream again, Vanessa. She's a top fan for sure. Hope you're having a lovely day. This person in Chinese says, I don't care that you're covered in hair like a gorilla. You attract me in a particular way. Well, I sure hope you're a woman. China, the sad old man of Asia. Yeah, that's Ross Moore Farr says that. I've always put it like this. I think Seamilk told me this once, that China is a lot like that one annoying kid in the classroom, in the back of the classroom, who's not getting enough attention, and who you know, the type of child who demands that level of attention, and they're just like crumpling up paper and throwing it at the back of the kids' heads that are in the rest of the classroom. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what China is like. And it's like, that's kind of the way that they respond to a lot of these things that happen. The sad, grumpy, racist old man of Asia, says Stephen. Honestly, I think China's not really alone in their racism. If there's one thing I can blame China for, racism, I'm sure, is one of them, but you could also say the same things about a lot of Asian countries, if I'm honest with you. Jeremy Jackson says, being a woman in a right-wing party, she just couldn't help herself. I don't know what being a woman has to do with it. How did I stay? Enjoying the rain now. It's 11:30 p.m. Oh man, it's getting late. Hope you're having a great day. I'm having a lovely day. You know why? Okay, you know why that this Japanese Prime Minister, Sane Takaichi, let's figure out, fellas, real quick, fellas and Vanessa, how the hell, I'm going to keep saying her name wrong, and I'm going to get yelled at. Pronunciation. Let's see. There's a whole YouTube video on her pronunciation. I thought maybe this would have, let's see what it is. And I'm going to hope that this isn't going to be
Speechmodification.com presents how to pronounce Sanae Takaichi.
Sanae Takaichi. I'm not sure if you guys could hear that. Anyways, she would get my vote because she owned a Supra. Come on. That's fucking cool. She owned a Supra. That immediately gets my vote. That's how smooth-brained I am. If you own a Supra, immediately you're voted into Parliament. That's the way I look at it. In fact, I kind of want to see a picture of her. Let's see. Is that a Supra? That's an old Supra. Is that her? Dude, I mean, come on. That is fucking badass. Pop-up headlights. That's an early Supra, if it even is a Supra. It doesn't even look like one. That's fucking cool. I think that Supra now is in a museum. But yeah, immediately gets my vote. Immediately. So cool. Blair's in the chat. Oh boy. Blair says the travel warning won't affect anything. People who still want to travel there will still travel there. I think you're probably right, Blair, but I do think there's enough nationalism in China where people who maybe were planning on going to Japan will cancel it out of support for their own country. But I think you're probably mostly right. I think if they already bought the tickets and their hotels booked, they're still going to go. But then don't underestimate it, because even in my home country of Canada, like when the whole Trump thing popped off, when Trump said that Canada should be the 51st state, like, not that it matters that much to Americans. I know Americans are going to say they don't care, but tourism, Canadians traveling to the States has hit the floor. Like, no one's going anymore. And it hasn't, usually when things like that happens, you would expect that, people would stop going, but then after a while they would go again. Like once the news dies down, they wait a month and then people start going back to the States. People still aren't going. Like my own dad, every time I call him, it's all he talks about is how he's never going to America and how he used to go all the time for vacation and now he won't spend a single loonie in the States or whatever. And that's just Canada. We're not even all that particularly nationalistic, not really, and then you've got Chinese people who are like super nationalistic, so you never know. Seo Tang says, heard from the news that Chinese people are still traveling to Japan and that new Japanese anime movie did extremely well in China. What new anime? Maybe you're right. Maybe like they're not even listening to the government. Jeremy Jackson says, if China, Korea, and Japan could get along, America would have been done a long time ago. Yeah, but good luck. Tokyo Drift PM for sure. Hey, it's Luka Doncic. I don't know how to say that guy's name. I get that so often. Every time I go out, they're like, hey, you look like that basketball player. Okay, how do you spell his name? Do I really look like that? I don't watch basketball. I look like this guy? I mean, come on. I don't think I look like this guy. Everyone keeps like everywhere. I used to be John Travolta, who's like 3 times my age or whatever old John Travolta is. If people are nice, they'll say Tom Cruise, but I mean, come on, that's a stretch. And now I get this guy. Where's he from? Czech? No, he's from Slovenia. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but like literally everywhere I go now, this is what I get. I look like that guy. It's fucking crazy. Sure, Price's body hair is covered than average, strangely attractive, but is it worth so many comments? I guess so. People love talking about my chest hair. It stands out in Asia where people don't have hairy chests. But back in like the States or in Europe where hairy chests are normal, people don't talk about it. I think ICE and Border Patrol harassing and detaining Canadians has a huge effect on that too. Are they though? Because I mean, Canadians can go visa-free. I don't know what they would be harassing them for. No, you don't look like him. You don't look like him. The physical resemblance is there for sure. It's a split vote. That should be, can I do this? Oh, I can. Let's see. His name's got some like crazy, no idea if that works. Oh boy, oh boy. What happened to the chat? What just happened? I started a Q&A and then it just deleted the chat. End Q&A. I don't know what that was. That's not what I wanted to do. Remind me never to do that again. I was beaten up for being a British thief in Guangzhou a couple of years ago. What? What? Technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell that was. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, poll. That's what I went on a Q&A. That was stupid. You guys know I love a poll. There we go. Please don't delete the chat. Please don't delete the chat. There we go. Good. Okay, I wish President Trump would criticize Taiwan as harshly as he does the EU, for Taiwan's policies are no less extreme than those of the EU. What policies exactly are you talking about? I don't know who he is, but I really admire Sanai Takaichi. I hope she takes a firm stance against Taiwan's unreasonable policies, especially regarding trade barriers. I don't know. I mean, I think Taiwan does have some pretty huge tariffs on some things, but I don't know if they're unreasonable. I think you're going to have to specify what it is you're talking about. Because Trump has been pretty tough on Taiwan already by forcing them to invest billions of dollars in building fabs, you know, the places where they make computer chips in the US. Although I've heard a lot of people say, because I'm not an expert in the field, but I've heard people who are in the know say that the fabs, once those fabs are actually done, the tech has advanced so fast and so much that those fabs are building like older chips. You know, like they can't build a fab fast enough to keep up with how quickly the tech is advancing. I could be wrong. What I mean is Taiwan's environmental regulations and vehicle safety inspection policies. Okay, yeah, sure. I suppose I could somewhat agree with you on that. Again, it really depends though. Like environmentally, Taiwan's not great. The air pollution's really bad. They're really struggling with nuclear power because they don't want to have a Fukushima happen here. So, you know, it's tough. Anyways, continuing on. China sent its Coast Guard through... Does my screen here? Yeah. China sent its Coast Guard through the waters of the Senkaku Islands and military drones past outlying Japanese territory as Beijing ramps up tensions over the Japanese Prime Minister's remarks. On Sunday, the Chinese Coast Guard said its ships made rights enforcement patrol through the waters of Senkaku, which are administered by Japan, but also claimed by China as the Diaoyu Islands. So it's just like heating up the whole thing, you know, like just ramping up the rhetoric. This is how fucking World War III starts, you know. Just the Japanese Prime Minister says one little thing, and then it blows up to this, you know. The latest activity comes to intensify, yada, yada, yada. I just want to see if there's anything new happening here, or if this article is just retracing kind of what happened. Jesus Christ. This is the kind of shit that happens in the news and people freak out and no one in Taiwan knows about it. So it says in Taiwan, the defense ministry said on Sunday morning that it detected 30 Chinese military aircraft. Think about that for a second. 30. That's like, if you saw 30 airplanes in the air right now, you'd freak out. 7 Navy ships and 1 official ship, which was likely the Coast Guard, operating around the island over the past 24 hours. This happens every single day in Taiwan, and it is in the news, but no one talks about it. It's only like when something like this happens, you know, where it has a larger story attached to it, and then a Western media source picks it up that the West starts to freak out over it, but it happens every single day, where they detect like ships and planes and stuff around the island. And China does this all the time, where they carry out joint combat patrols to harass the airspace and seas around it. Saturday, Taiwan sent its own aircraft and ships to monitor the situation. Taiwan reports such Chinese patrols a couple of times a month as a part of it's not a couple of times a month. It's literally every single day, pretty much. It's like a couple times a week. I think that's inaccurate. I don't think it's a couple times a month. I think that's inaccurate. Japan's been facing mounting pressure from China since Takaichi made her remarks, with China Consul General in Osaka prompting a formal protest from Tokyo by commenting that the dirty head that sticks itself out must be cut off, which is a fucking crazy thing to say. Yeah, and the really cool thing is that the Japanese Prime Minister isn't backing down. She's not. She's not walking back her remarks. She's like sticking back. She's sticking by what she said. Vehicle safety inspection. Have you seen Prazi's scooter? Dude, what's wrong with my scooter? Steven, my scooter's sick. This is the first scooter that I've had that actually like is safe and runs properly. Okay. Like every other scooter I've had, like the bike I had before that scooter was a Yamaha SR 150, and the center stand fell off the bottom of it and wrapped itself around my rear wheel and almost killed me. Every other scooter were like, they used to belong to the Chinese government, and then me and Seamilk would just take them. Like we wouldn't steal, like they didn't work anymore, you know, and they banned petrol powered scooters. And there was a bunch of them parked outside this building, so we just took them and rebuilt them, and they were just pieces of shit, and I loved them, but they were free. But this scooter that I have now works great, and there's nothing wrong with it. China's all talk. China does not dare start war. Do you think war will break out in 26 or 27? I don't think it will. Those are only Temu planes. They're 10 times smaller when you order them. Sene was a drummer in a heavy rock band too. Yeah, I heard that too, which is fucking badass. Another reason I should get my vote. Fucking cool. I need more motorcycle vlogs. Love the last one, as you rode around Taichung. Yeah, I want to do more. The DJI Action 5's coming out, and I want that. I just put my other camera away, but it's a piece of shit. This is the one I had before. This is the GoPro 8, but this ended up in the ocean. Now it doesn't work, so I gotta get another one, and then I'll do more moto vlogs. I'm surprised how much people enjoy them. They're so much easier to make. Yeah, I personally don't think that war is going to break out. Obviously, if I thought war was going to break out, I wouldn't be living here. I'd be getting the hell out of here. But I just don't think it'll happen. Like, I think that the reason people think it'll happen is because China is reaching a point where their population is kind of peaking. You know, their fighting age men, that population is peaking. And if they wait longer than, I think some people said 2027, but it might be later than that, then their population will start to decline rapidly, and they won't have enough people to take part in this invasion. But Xi Jinping, you know, no, it doesn't have to be Xi Jinping, but like no leader of China wants to be the one that fucks up an invasion of Taiwan, you know? And I also think they're doing such a good job with their propaganda that they won't have to invade. I don't say good job as in the propaganda is good. I think it's bad, but it's working. So many of my Taiwanese friends want to go to Xinjiang. It's kind of fucking mind-blowing. Like Xinjiang of all places, that's where you want to go visit. Like, have you been living under a rock? Do you not know what they do to people in Xinjiang? But a lot of my Taiwanese friends lately have been very interested in traveling to China. So yeah, how do you get to stay there if you're not teaching anymore? Do you have residency? Yeah, I've got my permanent residence, so I can live here and do this. I might go back into teaching. Like, I really like doing YouTube full time, but like, let's be honest with ourselves here. I'm not blowing up anytime soon, you know? I have a pretty rock steady audience, and it doesn't really grow. Motorcycles imported to Taiwan are subject to destroy. Yeah, we talked about this in the last live stream. Motorcycles, scooters, cars, whatever, they're very expensive in Taiwan. We all know that. Marco, what's up? Are you worried about the Welland War, as Welland has been sending too many planes to St. Catharines airspace? Let's be honest. I don't think... How long would it take to fly a plane? Could you even fly a plane from Welland to St. Catharines? Like, I don't even think you could take off, you know? Like an average runway could connect you from Welland to St. Catharines. And I'm not worried because Welland's going to win because Welland's the greatest city in the world, not just in Canada. But yeah, let's see here. This is I've just saw this. In another escalation, China's government on Sunday urged its citizens to carefully reconsider studying in Japan, citing what it described as an unstable security environment. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, the advice does not amount to a ban. A dramatic reduction in the number of Chinese students could have a negative impact on Japanese universities. Record 336,000 foreign nationals are studying in Japan. Yeah, but how many of those are Chinese? Oh, 123,000 are Chinese. I mean, fine. But like Blair said, it might not even work. They might not even listen. But to cite it as an unstable security environment, fucking Japan, are you kidding me? They had Johnny Somali go there and do horrible shit to people, and they didn't touch him. Like, I think a few people went to go fight him, but it wasn't that bad. Like, I think if Johnny Somali tried that shit in England or something, you'll find out real quick what an unstable security environment looks like. Yeah, it's like a 5-minute flight. I don't even think it's 5 minutes. Great, you can stay. What does it take to get residency? You have to live in Taiwan for 5 years. You have to have a stable 5-year ARC, and then you can apply for your APRC. China encourages citizens not to visit Japan over Taiwan. This is the same kind of thing. I'm just so curious to know what you guys think of it. So this is actually the guy's name, Shui Jian. The dirty head that sticks out must be cut off. What a fucking crazy thing to say. Yeah. Replying to Johnny Somali, the problem is the right wing in Japan used the legal overreach in its attack on free speech. How are they attack? What do you mean? Like, I think a lot of foreigners in Japan are worried because they're worried that they're going to get mixed up with these foreigners that Japanese people dislike. You know, but I don't know how they're attacking free speech. Like, are they stopping? There was a guy who had a really good video on it. I fucking can't remember his name. Man, anti-foreigner in Japan. Oh yeah, Dogen. Yeah. He
Should I still move to Japan?
I'm not gonna like play the whole video, but if you want to watch it, he's got really good points on it and how you shouldn't get mixed up on. He clears up the Japanese mentality and what people think there about it. Dogen is a legend, yeah. His voice is so calming. This is just for a domestic audience. Nothing will ever happen in East Asia. Not sure what you're talking about. East Asia and Western Europe are the most stable and peaceful regions in the world for the last 80 years. This is a nothing burger. Could be. I'm actually an anti-leftist. I used to lean left, but now I lean right. I fully support right-wing policies. anti-electric vehicles and anti-leftist radicals. Okay. How often do you chat with your old pals, Matt and Winston? Do you still agree politically? Yeah, we travel. We just talked last night. I don't know what you mean by do we agree politically. Like I think I'm not even sure what Simo believes politically. We've never really spoken about it. I mean, unless you're talking about China. Electric vehicles are making Chinese companies profitable by causing Japanese, American, and Taiwanese companies to fall behind. I think the thing with electronics is that the rest of the world is having a really fucking hard time competing with Chinese electronics. Like they won't even allow Chinese auto manufacturers to sell their electric cars in America because the American brands can't compete because they make them so cheap and like the quality is actually pretty good. And so you're not wrong, but I think what that means is that the Japanese, American, and Taiwanese companies have to step up and make products that can compete, because the advantage that the West has or anywhere outside of China is that they can innovate. And China they're terrible at innovating. Like they're terrible at it. What they're really good at is stealing your designs or your plans or your whatever it is, and then making that thing really cheap. And sometimes not just cheap, but inexpensive, so that the quality is not even that bad anymore. Because I think it's changed, right? I think like not too long ago, I don't think I know this, right? Anything made in China had a terrible reputation for being really low quality. And I think there's a lot of products that are made in China that still do have really low quality. But I think now it's starting to change. Like if you look at DJI, right, which is the company I use, that's the camera that I use. Like the quality of their stuff is actually not that bad. Or even BYD, which like when I lived in China was the shittiest. Like you almost couldn't believe how bad a BYD car was. Like absolute horseshit. Like the materials used were so brittle and so bad, and those cars did not last long. And now they're making like some of the most state-of-the-art electric vehicles on the planet. It's insane. Quality's been improving for, what is that supposed to say? Something plus years, yeah. China's government provides heavy subsidies on manufacturing. That's why Chinese products are so cheap. Oh, 10 years. Do they? I mean, it's so hard to know what the Chinese government does, especially when it goes to I wouldn't be surprised if they provide subsidies on manufacturing, but I think it's really hard to peg down the Chinese economy. That was another thing I wanted to talk about too, because people were concerned about like some people, BYD is just walking coffins. Yeah, build your dreams. People were concerned about like the Chinese economy. Like some people asked me like, well, if China stops having economic relationships with a certain country, then doesn't that hurt China? And the answer is like, we'll never know. Like you have no idea what the economy of China is doing, right? Because they don't release official numbers. Or if they do release numbers, you have no idea if they're true or not, because they can just change them, right? To keep, if you're an investor in a Chinese company, or if you're a major investor in some kind of stock, like they can just change their numbers. So yeah, Duha and Hikvision security cameras are unbelievable. I have no idea what either of those things are. Australia just recalled colored sand that's made in China because of it has asbestos. Seriously? That's fucking insane. I think the stuff like that happens all the time, though. Like Taiwan News always does articles on certain products getting sent back to wherever they came from because they have like a high level of pesticides or something, and it's like so common I can't even believe.